This is Consenting Adults with Leyna Nguyen.
My guests today are on their second marriage, and they say it couldn't be better. She is 44, a business consultant. He's 46. He's an engineer. They've been married 8 years, but been together for 12 years. Jess and Jeff are here to kind of walk us through their evolution as a swinging couple. So welcome to the show. First of all, can you both kind of basically just describe to me the first marriage? I mean, how was your sex life in your first marriage?
I would say non-existent.
Oh,
I would say the same.
How long were you married?
7 years, I guess. It was kind of like high school sweethearts and had, kids young. And then it just got into, work and kids, and you might have sex once a month maybe. And even then it was kind of a struggle or a negotiation, which was kind of weird because I'm very sexual. So it was something that I was thinking, well, maybe I'm too sexual. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe this is how marriage is supposed to be, but it just didn't feel right for me.
Mm-hmm. Jess, how about you?
A little bit different for me. When I got with my husband, I think it was strong in the beginning for a short period of time. And then when we got married, it was sort of, maybe 2-3 times a week. I had sort of this reputation for being oversexed, which was shared with his friends quite a bit. So, which is a really, really strange concept for me because I didn't view that as something negative, but it was a unique challenge.
And how long were you married?
Together longer than married, for sure. I think we were together almost 13 or 14 years and then maybe married for 3 or 4.
Knowing what you know now,
Mm-hmm.
Are you both kind of shocked that you're capable of staying with someone as long as you were without the sex life that you wanted?
Oh, yeah, I would say so. I have no idea how I survived it.
Yeah, I think people just think it's the norm because if you talk to most of our vanilla friends, really haven't changed. Most of our vanilla friends don't have a lot of sex and don't really have very healthy sex lives from what I would say. I mean, they're great people. It's just they don't talk about sex or do a lot of it.
So you meet each other, right? You fall in love. How soon into your relationship did the lifestyle stuff come up?
Not for a while. We were together for 7 years before, 6 or 7 years before.
We were together for 10, and then we got into lifestyle.
Okay.
Yeah, married for 6, and then got into lifestyle. Yeah.
But what I will say, when we became friends before we sort of fell in love, and we were both going through divorces at the time. We had young kids, so we were arranging like a lot of, we had our kids on the same weekends. So we started talking about sex and our experience and our lack of sex for that matter. So we started to open up to each other sexually, through discussion, well before we got together. And it was amazing how much we were aligned, it seemed, in terms of, things like kink. And, well, it was a lot of conversation about how much we masturbated, in fact, because it was...
And what porn we watched.
What porn we watched. So it sort of started that way.
So the openness started very early. But then how long were you together as a couple monogamously before you started exploring anything else?
10 years. So
yeah. As soon as we got together, it was fireworks. We were having sex every day. I think we were making up for lost time, telling our vanilla friends about it, and they just couldn't believe it. Actually, it kind of felt a lot like before we got together with our exes, where people were again shaming you for being so sexual. It felt like it was such a taboo subject and you couldn't really talk about it. And I think the way it started for us was I've always known and been open about being bisexual, which was another sort of Achilles heel for me in my previous marriage, because again, I was shamed for that. Women in the groups of friends thought I was showing off about my being bisexual, where I was just being honest. And so I was kind of like, I put a lot of that side of my life away for a number of years. And then I happened to meet a girl at work. She just, I became attracted to her. We became friends. There was a lot of conversation about sex. I remember coming home one day and saying, I've met this girl and she is just so out there sexually and open. I don't get it, to the point where it's almost uncomfortable at work, but I kind of, like it.
Mm-hmm.
It became flirtatious with the two of us. And it got to a point where it was sort of not feeling like it was maybe ethical, because I wasn't telling him what was going on. And there was one particular event that I finally said, okay, I have to tell him. And we were in a business meeting, her and I, and our boss was across the table from us, and we were sitting there, and she started to play footsie with me under the table. I think maybe we were camping and I had told you about it. We had a couple of drinks and we were camping.
Yeah, I'd met her before. I knew who she was, and I knew that they'd been flirting and stuff, which was fine. I wasn't upset. It was certainly a turn on.
Yeah.
I just didn't know where it was, like where it would lead, right? So that's where we started talking about, a threesome.
And that's how it came out, because in my previous marriage as well, I had cheated on my husband with another woman, and I wasn't proud of. I'm still not proud of that. I would say it was my least proud moment. So that was not something that I wanted to happen in this marriage. So I opened up about it, and that's sort of how it progressed. We talked about a threesome, and of course he was all for it. And then I had told her the next day that, we had this conversation and had pretty amazing sex after having this conversation about bringing her in the bedroom and whatnot. And then, it just sort of evolved from there.
No. It doesn't just evolve from there. No. Okay. So you told the girl from work that you guys are like sex talking about her, right? Did anything happen?
No. So still a lot of flirting for a number of weeks. And then, just a lot more conversation. She was married. And then she happened to open up to us that to myself, that that her husband and her had an open marriage. And I had never heard that term before. I just didn't understand what that meant. I mean, I obviously heard about it, but it didn't sound right to me. So I had asked her more about it. And she had shared that, she would post pictures of herself naked, and, men would DM her and her husband would read it. And it was sort of this like virtual cuckolding kind of thing that they had going on. And I was just sort of blown away by the concept. And
you told me to research it.
I said, because he's a researcher. So I said, you need to go and research this. This is amazing. I've never heard of this before.
So 100 podcast episodes later.
Right. Okay. So then tell me, at some point you decide, okay, we're going to kind of dip our toes in. What did you do?
Unbeknownst to me, I went off to a business trip,
yeah.
and I get a text from Jess right before I present.
Nice.
Yeah, I set up our profile and I put on all our nude pics. And I'm like, what? And then, there's 50 people sitting in front of me. They're all staring at me. And I get this text. I'm like lying. I'm like, I have a technical difficulty here. 1 second. So then I'm logging on to the swinger site and I'm like going through and it's like exploding with like messages and stuff. And I'm like, these are fine for now. But every coffee break, I was like checking the chats.
That's kind of how it led to our first date, which then led to our first meet and greet, which was our first soft swap. Mm-hmm. And it sort of just took off from there.
Exploded from there.
It really did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So you started with soft swap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long did that last for you guys?
Well, there was 36 rules I'd created. Excel sheet. Soft swap was one of them. It lasted maybe 3 months.
3 months, I think, about 3 months. I don't think that we ever anticipated that we would go beyond soft swap. So that I would say definitely there's a lot of things that we didn't expect that came out of it. So
like what?
The friendships, the community, the experiences,
fantasies and stuff.
Like meeting true lifestyle people, and just the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, as long as you meet the right people, that's the thing, right? So we were not DTF couple where you just go out and pick somebody up and have sex with them. We really wanted that whole friendship side of it. Once we found that, it was certainly exciting. The challenge is finding the right people. Right?
Yeah.
3 months later, you decide you're going to go a little bit further.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that first experience where it was a full swap?
It's a unique experience because we'd have to back up a little bit. We had a couple of soft swap situations and they were good in the beginning, then they kind of turned bad.
What do you mean by that?
I think we jumped in a little too quickly. We met this great couple and we saw them too frequently, I think.
And they were new too. So it was the newbies and the newbies. So you're both kind of trying to figure things out together. And
they had some issues. They had some jealousy in their relationship that, was uncomfortable. And, he had low self-esteem, which is a giant turnoff for me. We just had to slow things down and be a little bit smarter going forward. But then we met this couple about a month later. We met a couple and they were a little bit more experienced, albeit still new. And, it was just right. It just felt right. Everything they kind of stood for from, their values, their character, all of those things were right. Their sense of humor, because that's a huge thing for us. And then they exposed us to more. They were very good at communicating. So, they talked a lot about their fantasies and other fantasies and introducing us to other people. And they introduced us to another couple who invited us to participate in a surprise orgy.
Surprise.
Nice. Happy birthday.
So that was unique. And
What? No, okay. What was the situation? Who was it a surprise for?
so the gentleman, they're friends. The husband approached us and wanted to surprise his wife.
And we'd only met them once for like 10 minutes.
Oh.
We get a text saying, hey, we don't know each other very well, but I'm trying to plan this special night for my wife. And this is what it would be like. You guys will, sneak into the room, and then I'll bring her in blindfolded, and I'll tie her up and
do a striptease.
And then I'll take her to the bed, and
we'll lay her down.
And
then we'll all kind of approach her, and then she'll feel all these hands on her, and we will fulfill her fantasies. So that's how that happened. And I mean,
well, wait, no. So that was the plan.
That was the plan.
And did it actually happen that way?
It unfolded like that.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Tell her about the start of it, like going into the room.
Oh, yeah. So there's that. I guess the first piece was we were at a hotel, and we had gone, the four of us had gone in ahead of the other couple.
It's like sexual spies, eh?
And we're going down the hallway, and we turn the corner to go into this hotel room, and we come around the corner, and there is a children's birthday party happening in the hallway.
Oh, no.
Balloons and children, and me and the other girl and the other, our friends, were just like grabbed onto each other and basically threw each other into the hotel room as quick as we could, cracking up. I was just like, this cannot be our life. They're going to hear everything in this bedroom. So, so that was a little strange. But I think in terms of the experience, it was amazing. It was very sexy.
Yeah, it worked out better than we thought. Like, having only met her for 10 minutes, when the blindfold came off, I was between her legs. And so I was expecting like someone to hit me on the head, like, who are you? What's your name?
Why are you
between my legs? So I was kind of scared when the blindfold came off, but she remembered who I was.
Thank God.
I think she remembered my name, but I introduced myself, which is an awkward way to introduce yourself again. Like, oh, my name's Jeff, remember? And then right back down.
But so out of our comfort zone, for sure. Yeah.
So you've got to then actually walk me through what actually happened. So you're all in this room waiting for her?
We're all in the room, and we have to be really quiet. We're kind of in our underwear, and the girls are in lingerie, and the birthday girl isn't in the room yet. So we're all kind of touching and kissing each other, because what else are you going to do? You're sitting on a couch in a suite,
You should keep yourself busy.
Yeah. So then all of a sudden we hear the door opening. So we all are quiet. He leads her in, ties her up, starts to do this really sexy striptease, super hot. So, you're just...
Well, hold on. Who's doing the striptease? The husband?
The husband is stripping the birthday girl, yeah.
Oh, okay.
After he gets her stripped, he takes her into the bedroom. We all follow, and then he starts to point to the women to join her on the bed. So then...
He pointed to me first. Now, I had never been with him either. I had never even kissed him. So it was strange. I start to kiss her neck and her breasts, and I go down between her legs, and I'm performing on her. And then he invites the other girl, who then starts to do the same to the birthday girl. And then, slowly everybody starts to come onto the bed, and she can feel all of these hands on top of her. And then she starts to smile, and you can tell she realizes there's more people in the room. And, and then she takes the blindfold off. I'm so bad at
You are so bad, because I'm starting to wonder what's going on at the kid's birthday party.
It was extremely sexy. It was just...
And the husband was kind of sitting back, kind of orchestrating the whole thing, which was really, really cool to see. Because, obviously we hadn't been in... we kind of define orgy as anything like 5+ type thing. So we've never been in an orgy. We've never been with 6 people before. So it was really interesting to see the dynamic where he could kind of sit back, orchestrate everything. His wife was loving it, and we were having an amazing time. It all kind of happened organically. You couldn't, you weren't planning positions. You weren't saying, okay, well, you do this, I'll do this. Everyone was just kind of in a big pile, which was really awesome.
And then once the blindfold came off, then it was sort of a free-for-all for everybody to participate with each other. And it was fantastic, as orgies are, which are always my favorite. This particular couple that invited us to this surprise orgy, has really opened our minds to a number of different things. So I would say about a week after that, our friends reached out. her in particular reached out to all of us and set up the scenario where she was actually going out of town. And she wanted us to have an MFM with her husband. And it was the first time that they were going to play a part as well. I wanted to have an MFM. I wanted to experience that, certainly, but not at the risk of messing up our friendship. So
we weren't looking to go out and find single males at that point. Like, we'd heard a whole bunch of podcasts where it's difficult to find really good single males in the lifestyle and stuff. And we were way too new into it to kind of go online and say, hey, any single males out there? So this was kind of the perfect opportunity when you have really close friends that can lend a partner, right?
Yeah. What we didn't want to happen was jealousy or anything like that, because, we definitely value the friendship with them. We do value the friendship with them. They're definitely our closest friends in the lifestyle. So, there was a lot of talking and discussion, and we ended up planning it, and it was amazing. That was the first full swap for myself anyway. Mm-hmm. And then after that,
Oh my God, there you go again.
I did it again. I'm sorry.
The whole MFM.
Okay. So the wife goes out of town, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Was it as good and as hot as you thought it would be? Or more so?
Yes. I was worried. I was kind of like, I don't know. But yeah, it was amazing.
How and why was it so amazing for you?
Going into it, I thought that there would be jealousy. I thought that whenever you're going into a new experience, you're really somewhat unsure. But for me, seeing Jess getting pleased by two guys, her enjoying it, there was, different positions obviously you can do when you have two males. So being able to experiment with that, like, it's just was such a turn on, and that kind of led to future fantasies and stuff that we did. But
were you guys opposite ends of the torso?
Opposite ends of the torso.
Yeah, there are some men who don't want any incidental touching. So when they do an MFM, they always are at opposite ends of the torso, so they don't ever have to touch.
No, it kind of brings up a different topic. No, I'm not. I'm pretty heteroflexible. So, and the other gentleman was too. So we could touch, and we weren't, standoffish where don't come near me, don't rub against me, that type of thing.
But was it just incidental touching, or was it something more?
It turned into more later in our relationship with that couple. So we had done a lot of talking about what is okay and what's not ahead of time, just so you don't get in awkward situations or make people feel uncomfortable or make someone do something that later they regret, but they did it just because they didn't want to make everyone feel bad. So there was a ton of communication back and forth with what Jess was comfortable with, what the wife was comfortable with, and then what me and the other gentleman would be comfortable with. So we were pretty, I guess, clear going in there that there would be touching and things like that. Eventually it moved into more. What
was off the table for that first experience?
Well, I definitely wanted to do DP.
Oh,
yes.
How was that?
It was amazing. It was my first time doing that. So that was a fantasy of mine that I wanted to fulfill. What was interesting about the going into the whole thing was, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be the female in the situation. I'm going to be in charge of, what's going to happen here. So I really set up the mood for the evening. They asked me, what do you want? How do you want this to go? So, I had a particular fantasy where I wanted to meet both men in this lobby bar at this hotel that we were going to be doing the MFM at. And
classy hotel.
Very, very classy hotel. So, I wanted to meet them downstairs, and I asked them both to dress in really nice, business suits, as though we were having a business meeting. I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I had both men's hands on my knees and going up my thighs, and
a lot of interesting looks from the waitresses.
I'm pretty sure they thought I was a prostitute.
No.
And then we headed upstairs, and then it just sort of all transpired from there.
Oh my gosh, she did it to me again. Jeff, she did it to me again.
So we get her upstairs, and so she's been in control this whole time. And then, so I guess the last piece of control that she had, she kind of said, okay, I want to strip you guys. So she stripped both him and I. And then at that point, she kind of gave us control, where we started kissing her, taking, her dress off, touching her, putting her on the bed. And then again, it wasn't orchestrated. We just, started soft swapping, so she was sucking on my dick and he was, going down on her, and then we'd switch, or, he'd move to the nipples or what have you. We had lots of time, so we were taking our time, which was great. So
you sat back for a while and
sat back and watched for a bit, and then the other gentleman could sit back and watch for a bit.
And then finally he asked if he could enter me, and I said absolutely. And I was a little concerned at the very beginning that how you would feel about it. Certainly, we did have a couple of drinks, so that took the edge off. But yeah.
Wait a second. So this is also your first time full swapping?
Yes. Yeah, that was the full. I guess the whole lead up to this whole conversation, this MFM, and full swap. Of course, when we had sex and it was great, and then I had said, I'd love to try this DP, and we did that, and yeah, it was definitely one of my hottest experiences, I would say.
Wow.
Really sexy.
And then sitting back after and having a drink with everyone sitting there naked, talking about the experience and so forth. And
one of the things we wanted to know from her was, what do you want? Do you want stories? Do you want picture? Do you want video? And she definitely wanted some pictures. I was definitely nervous the next day about her reaction. Mm-hmm. That was probably the biggest anxiety I had, was just how she was going to feel being away. I was trying to put myself in her shoes. How would I feel, right? If, my husband is doing this and I have no idea what's going on.
And what, she was probably turned on by it, right? Like she couldn't wait.
Well, she was. And I have to say, I value this friendship that we have with them so much, but I've learned so much even from her, and she helped me push my boundaries. I definitely had a lot of jealousy in my previous life. And even at the beginning of our relationship, before we got into the lifestyle, I was an extremely jealous person. Seeing the way that she handled herself with such grace, I was like, you know what? I want to experience this. I want to push my own boundaries in this way. And we did. Jeff played a part for me, and it was the most amazing experience. And it just evolved my whole thinking and my kink in the lifestyle to something I never thought could ever be.
So your first time full swapping is an MFM in which you did a DP.
Yes.
I'm starting to run out of consonants. So Jeff, you said that the relationship with this couple and with the man has since evolved some more. How has it evolved? What's different now?
I'd always seen myself as kind of like, just a regular straight guy. But then, the more time you spend with couples and obviously guys and body parts everywhere, it came up with, what are we comfortable with, from a male perspective? Because the females, would say, okay, well, I'm bi-curious, or I'm straight, or I'm bisexual, which is completely fine and open pretty well in the lifestyle. But, for males, it's pretty well every profile says straight. With the four of us, we had open conversations about what we're comfortable with, and it just opened it up so that we could, I guess, explore a bit more. I guess I felt in our initial encounters with other couples that I didn't like the fact that the women could kind of touch and be involved with each other, and the men had to stay 6 inches apart or 12 inches apart, and there could be no touching. And if there was something wrong. And it just felt unnatural, because everyone's entwined in these situations that you can't always be looking over your shoulder to say, well, whose foot did I just kick, or whose penis did I just grab? That's a bad example.
So what are you comfortable with now?
I'd say soft play with men that are into that. Situational.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking just like maybe oral.
Yeah. Yeah. This is all kind of an exploration. So I don't even know if I would go, and have, sex with a man or what have you, or things like that. But everything really evolves. And if you have open-minded people that you enjoy being with, then, the world's kind of your oyster.
Looking back, though, because every man that I've talked to who are okay with that can look back to before they were in the lifestyle and say, oh, yeah, there was this. And was there any of that in your background?
No, that's weird. I've heard that on other podcasts and things like that. And it really, for me, it was all of a sudden you're in a sexy environment, and there's a penis, or there's, a chiseled body or something, right? And you're like, well, I really can't touch that. I'm like, well, why can't I? Like, if I want to and he's fine with it, why can't we, right?
It's such a better experience when you're in a sexy environment or in a play session, when there's no holds barred. Consent, of course, is all there, but, things can just happen freely. It's so much sexier.
And you can find this sexy couple on Twitter. They're at HoneySpoon11. All right, next time on Consenting Adults, it may seem like an oxymoron, but the confident cuck talks about why he likes to be with his girlfriend just after she's had sex with someone else, and why he thinks cuckolding is so misunderstood.
It's kind of like a steak where you have it still resting, it's still cooking a little bit on the counter. So I like to come in that time. That is where I thrive. That is like, let me go down on you, let me make out with you, let me dirty talk to you, like use me however you wish. And a lot of times that's when I'll have sex. That's when I'll actually have penetration. And I love hearing, how much bigger he was. I love feeling how much wetter she is.
That's next time on Consenting Adults.